I've been in a dark place. There's been lots of self-doubt, burnout, 100%. For me to be able to create things for other people, I need to be focused on them.
Roisin Lafferty, founder and creative director, best known for her captivating environments and uncompromising, detail-focused interior architecture. Dezeen magazine named her one of the 7 best designers in the world.
I created a business by accident. I had no business knowledge, no even basic anything. And it intimidated me so much. How I react to things that would have been huge before, how I react to them now is different. So when you fail, that smashes. And then it's kind of a relief.
Wow.
I'm still here.
It's taken a lot of hard work. We finally got you here. Thank you so much for coming into my premises, and I've never been so self-conscious of the space. I mean, a designer such as yourself coming in here, but thank you for coming on board. Success has so many different meanings for so many different people, okay? There's success in the fitness world, in the financial world, and then there's the success of being the best parent you can be. There's loads of different variations. But the common trend is that there's a trail, and when we learn about the trail of everyone else's success, it helps people kind of drive their own progress forward. So, obviously, it doesn't take a lot to find out what success looks like visually to you. You look at your social media, you read the magazine articles you've been in, and there's an absolute wealth of different things out there. And the questions I asked today, hopefully will give a little bit of light into how that comes about. But before I even start on that, like, what was life like for you before success happened? I know success, sometimes people think that it's a destination, but we know it's ongoing. But pre all of this, let's get a bit of an intro.
Well, first of all, your building is lovely. Beautiful arches you've got going on. To me, I started out, I grew up with my mom and my granddad and my little brother. Very normal upbringing. My granddad was really important to me in my life, and I was really lucky, I think, to have him as a key person growing up. My dad wasn't around. So he was the one who kind of almost instilled this kind of world's gone by view of things. He was quite an old school gentleman, and he would have taken me to art galleries. There was kind of a formality to him. He probably influenced me quite a lot when I was younger. The other thing that I think, looking back and chatting to a lot of coaches along the way, I grew up in a single parent family, and at a time where that wasn't really normal. And it meant that there was quite a lot of judgment. You know, I went to a good school in a good area kind of because of my granddad, and I think looked down upon potentially quite a bit. Single parent seemed less than. I think with that, it gave me a little bit of a chip on my shoulder.
Okay. To
prove people wrong.
Wow.
So it kind of instilled a little bit of a fight that probably I've carried along the way.
Do you think there was like a specific moment in your life that you made that decision where you were going, do you know what, I want to prove people wrong, or I want to be, you know, whether it's wealthy or successful? Was there a moment that you can pinpoint that too? Because a lot of times people say how I remember the day I decided X, Y, or Z.
I think I was always kind of fine in school. I didn't really, I went to a pretty academic school. I was always fine. I kind of surfed along. I didn't really care about it. I wasn't that passionate about it, but I did okay. I was a good girl, went along, but it wasn't really my thing. My thing was always art within that. So even from being little, art was what people rewarded me for. So I was seen when I did art or when I sang. Those two creative expressions is when I got like rewarded or validated. I think so during school, you're almost in your kind of a pigeonhole or your box. And it's when you leave that you get to see there's a whole other world.
Of course.
So when I was doing my degree, I remember actually my boyfriend at the time, it was the first time ever that I said, I want to get a first in this. I want to do well in this. I think I could do that. Interior design.
Interior design.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I remember him saying, "Oh, almost, shh, don't say that out loud."
This episode of Find Your Edge is brought to you by Hedgehogs vs. Foxes, a video production studio crafting bold, cinematic content for brands in lifestyle, corporate, events, and more. Visit us at hvf.ie to learn more.
Yeah.
It was like a 2-1 is really good. Not many people get it first. And I remember that attitude, because I'm saying it, that attitude stuck with me and it really annoyed me.
His attitude, his response to
his
it.
attitude. And I get it. You know, there's so many people like that. It's like, don't say it in case it doesn't happen and you're disappointed and then you might be embarrassed. And then it's like, or say it and try really, really hard to get it.
I get that and I love it. And it kind of leads into something I love talking about, which is self-belief. And so at some stage you obviously made that decision that you were going to, you know, go down this route and you had some self-belief there. How do you create that for yourself, or how do you manufacture that belief? Is it always based on to prove someone wrong, or is it just because you want to achieve, or what's your fulfillment that drives that belief?
That to prove something wrong, I found out is quite a negative.
Yeah, well, I'm not here to judge. I'm here to ask.
I think that helped me, but no, the thing for me is my love was always design. My love was art, creativity and art. I didn't know when I was younger how to put that into motion.
Yeah.
But this for me is something I love. It is kind of the essence of me. So I'm lucky in that way that I have clarity over what that is. So I guess I've always been very focused on that. I've always had a lot of belief in my ability to design, not to run a business, not anything that goes with that, to design. So that's kind of the core focus.
Know your strengths.
Everything else can come. But that's, I think, something that I never doubted.
Amazing. I mean, for a lot of people, that fear factor, or maybe it's an Irish thing, I'm not sure, that like, oh, don't say that, you just settle for a second. It's like we're nearly setting ourselves up for failure. Or maybe there's a fear of failure and we're trying to protect loved ones and we don't want you to, oh, you know what, you're doing great if you just get that job. And it's like, again, like that always just never sat right with me. I wanted more. I, felt a bit like a square peg in a round hole perhaps. And I get that impression maybe in school that you were like, everything was good, but you knew there was something different or you wanted more. And I think anyway, that from an early stage, you'd start learning these skills and you have to overcome that negative voice or that negative statement that's made towards you. And it helps you overcome obstacles, I think, throughout life. I mean, do you feel like there's been any massive big obstacles that you've had to overcome that, well, I'm sure you do on a daily basis, but big ones that you've learned from that you think were transformative or maybe even sent you on a different trajectory with your career?
Definitely. I think rather than even, saying specific things, it's more the impact that big chaos moments have on you. And I think how I react to things that would have been huge before, how I react to them now is different.
Yeah.
So, and that comes with knowing yourself. It comes with age as well and experience. But I think mostly it comes with being able to step away from yourself and kind of look in. Like there's been lots of massive things that have happened over the years where, yes, I have not been in a good place. I've been in a dark place. There's been lots of kind of self-doubt and is this all worth it? Burnout 100%. Things that are not healthy. And I think I've always pushed through them. You pick yourself up and you don't always maybe connect your body shouting at you. Yeah. Whereas now when chaotic things happen, I've learned, I guess, ways to deal with it, almost to catch myself. So something really kind of big happened a good few years ago and it wasn't good. It wasn't a good time in my business. It wasn't a good time personally. And I used to go to this business life coach and he described, I'm quite visual, so I like to picture these things. They help me get through things. So he said to describe this almost house or kind of building space that I could go to that's mine. No one else can get in. There's a secret door. So I have that in my head and it's very cool. But for all of the energy, because I started to get obsessed by the negative by the negativity.
As in focusing on it, or,
Yeah.
or getting put off? It was actually
Focusing on it.
Yeah.
So I've learned that when negative things happen, you kind of have an option, and it's you either feed it, you feed that fire, and that's talking about it, talking fearfully about it, talking to more people about it, getting more momentum, negative.
And more of it tends to come in then.
Exactly. You're actually inviting it in, and you're kind of deviating from where you should be going.
Yeah.
And when especially creative, but I think most things are actually creative, you are actually stopping yourself from progressing. So he, at the time, my coach said, just please, will you just go back into that house and shut the door? You know, like just block that out. Because for me to be able to create things for other people, be able to create visions that I have, I need to be focused on them. I need to fully be creatively expressing myself. And the moment I turn away and I'm looking at the chaos or negativity around me is the moment I've stopped.
Yeah.
And it's frantic, it's negative, you don't sleep, you're looking at your phone, you're fixated. All of those things, all of the healthy things you should be doing to help yourself are gone. So that's what I've learned not to do.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a creative person, but I'm a visual person. So I love that house analogy. That's fantastic. And that's your safe place. And that's where you go. And it's like, I hear so many people in similar positions talking about that negativity as soon as you start feeding it. How that, you know, once you open that door and let that into your house, that cold wind just comes in and gets in everywhere. And it's really important. I've learned myself throughout the years the importance of the energy I'm exposed to. And where you may be a visual person, I'm very empathetic and I feel nearly what other people are feeling. And that's how I would, you know, I suppose in some ways it's why I'm successful as a coach, because I can connect in with people on that level. But I've become so aware of a negative energy coming around me. It doesn't even have to be something someone says. It can be a reaction or body language. And over the years, like you said, age definitely helps. Have developed a bit of a skill to help with that. Has there been moments where you've went, I just want to give up on this and change my career and get a 9 to 5? And if there was, like, how do you handle that? Do you just go, okay, you're not allowed into the house?
There's been lots of times because I created a business by accident. I don't say by accident as in it was easy. I mean, it was during a recession when I started. There was no jobs. I wanted a job in the UK. To even get it, you needed to have experience. So I started to do this at the time just to gain experience for what was meant to be 3 months, and then started going from there. I had no business knowledge, no even basic anything. And it intimidated me so much because I thought it was this thing, you know, there was lots of words, there was lots of jargon. What is that? That's like, in theory, a businessman over there.
Yeah.
So that was really, really unknown and terrifying to me, and not something I ever even considered. So as I started doing that more, that is the period I'd say where I wanted to quit a lot. And that is when I was working till like 2 a.m, completely out of my depth in everything we were doing. And that was that time. And then, okay, so you get a little further and you've got a bit more experience. So my business partner who started it with me left. She went to the UK. She got the job she wanted.
Okay.
It was only ever meant to be a short-term thing.
Yeah.
But at that point, I was like, I can't leave. I don't want to now go work for someone else.
You got
I know that I don't know how to do this, but I'm now too far gone to be able to work for someone else.
Yeah.
So it's like,
relate.
what do I do now?
Yeah.
Like, because it kind of feels like there's no option. So they were the thought processes then.
It's funny when I can find myself. What year did you set your business up?
I'm really bad with dates, but 14 years ago.
Yeah, so it was same as me. So I was like 2011, which is 13 years ago, but around the same sort of time. And I kind of stumbled into that. And like, even to this day, I'm a failed businessman. I'm a successful coach and a failed businessman because there's been so many things, you know, that I've not been able to do and all the rest of it. And I suppose like failure has been essential for me to grow.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I'm one of these people that has to kind of hit the wall a few times before I realize I need some help here.
Yeah.
Like, would you say failure played a role in your growth then as well? That it was part of the process? If you kind of zoom out now,
Yeah.
which is easy to do, and look back,
Yeah.
you feel like failure was part of that journey as well?
Oh, I failed with things I was trying to set up like 2 years ago. Failing is kind of part of it. What I'd say is definitely going back to that feeling the need to prove thing, that also comes like perfectionism. Okay, so that comes like, if I can just be perfect and do this perfectly, then everything will be wonderful, right? So you put all your goals in this one perfect thing. So when you fail, that smashes, and then it's kind of a relief.
Wow.
Because it's like, oh, I'm still here.
Okay, I get you.
Maybe you shouldn't try to be perfect. Maybe there is no perfect time.
Striving for perfection is a nice way to be, but like if you...
Not if you become fixated with it, because then it paralyzes you. Like, I've been trying to do a collaboration with a company, I won't say, for a while. It's something I've dreamt about for years, and I've had an opportunity to do it since the start of this year, and I paralyzed myself.
Really?
Only to do it last week.
Oh, well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
But paralyzed because I was trying to make it so perfect that I couldn't do it. So perfect can be bad, but I think failing actually makes you realize, oh, it's actually okay. You can try again and maybe just do it anyway.
There's a great line, a friend of mine used it as well, as I look at his art hanging on the wall, Macer, and it's like, when we're embarking on a new project, or when you're going to take on something that's a bit scary, a great question, which I find myself asking myself now all the time, is like, well, what's the worst that could happen? And you're using, I'm like looking at your body language, like, and let's call the table is like, the worst that could happen is you end up back on the table again.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as you do that, I feel like that kind of softens
100%.
the fear and softens that. And like, I'd love to be able to, I try to, talk with coaches who work with me or anyone I mentor in different worlds, etc. I'm like, just ask yourself, what's the worst that can happen here? And even if it's trying to progress yourself, taking on a new diet or exercise regime, it's like, what's the worst that can happen? Is like, it doesn't work out for you, so you have to try something else. Do you feel like you meet a lot of people who are in the same, who could have been in the same world as you and achieved great success in whatever area they wanted, but they just were afraid of getting out of that zone?
Yeah, because the other question I try to ask, because sometimes what's the worst that can happen is still negative. What's the best that can happen is good.
Yeah, very good.
Because sometimes you don't even allow your brain to explore what that might be.
True.
And that can be really good. I have friends who, are scared maybe to do things. Everything is scary.
Fear, it's real, it's there.
It's definitely scarier to not try do it though.
Yeah. I mean, fear is a fantastic thing, because in my opinion, because it makes me realize, like, even getting back into this podcast, and our good friend Matthew from HVF was like, come on now, we've got people, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, I think I'm losing my voice. There's been a few moments, and I just said it to him, full transparency, I'm nervous here about getting back into this, and like, I still have that little demon on my shoulder that's trying to stop me from progressing and doing these things. I mean, I think it's a shared phenomenon, and like, when I look back at people in my life, they were huge pillars for me to kind of, standing on the shoulders of giants. I'm sitting here standing on the shoulders of giants, people in the past very close to me, my grandfather being one, as you mentioned yours, who've stood to me. And like, do you feel like there's been instrumental coaches, you mentioned coaches, people, peers in your life who've helped you kind of overcome that, or show you what fear is and its role?
Massively. And I think that all the people along the way bring you to where you are, and there's different lessons to take from them. But yes, people have believed in me over the years. My granddad always did. He always said I was a good artist, probably from the age of 4.
Brilliant.
That's
Proper granddad job. Yep.
Definitely. No, but there's been people, I've had kind of coaches and therapists and stuff over my life for quite a long time, and that really helps. But then my business partner Becky is the exact opposite kind of character to me. So she is really, really balanced, really calm. We balance one another. Nice. I've got the creative output, and then she is the person who kind of balances my fear, because with every design, with every creative output, sometimes you panic. You can go through a stage of thinking what you're doing is brilliant and then thinking it's absolutely rubbish and you should throw it in the bin. You need the balance, the people around you. Also, like, my mom basically has just been my support. She basically works for my company. At this point.
Unpaid.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's important to have that. And how do you deal with that? Like if a Becky or a mum or someone close to you says, you know what, you're doing great, but that isn't a great project. I like dealing with that is also such a challenge. Dealing with something where you know you're going, is this not great? Do I need to throw it out, or is this a bad idea? I think true friends and true mentors and coaches are the people who will go, you know what, John, that's not the right direction for you to go here. Even though there's a part of me wanted to think it was, and I thought it was looking good, and I wanted someone to back that up.
Yeah.
I personally find that one a bit of a hard blow to take sometimes. Maybe that's not something that you've ever experienced.
I've experienced it. I'm always looking at it from a design perspective. Look at all the potential in this. Couldn't this be amazing? Imagine what I could make of this. And then someone's in my ear saying, yeah, but they're not going to pay you for it, and they don't value it all.
Of course.
And that's that. But what if? So that balance piece, yes, that can sometimes cause friction.
The what if character comes up in my life a lot, where I'm interviewing new trainers and stuff like that, and some of them have, you know, great traits, lots of them have great traits, but I'm meeting them and I'm like, okay, their language wasn't, maybe their English wasn't strong or whatever, but I'm trying to find that really positive thing. I was saying this to my wife, I was like, I need to be able to like look neutrally and tick boxes, but I've never been able to do that. I've got this emotional brain that just takes over.
But that's so powerful too. And that's something I've learned that's actually a real skill, because that's your intuition.
Exactly.
And that's really accurate.
It's so accurate. Yeah, it's so accurate. And when it comes to, you know, hiring coaches, you'll have great degrees and great qualifications, and then you'll have somebody who's got an okay degree or qualification, but there's just this personality connection, which in my business, that's what's most important, is that you can connect with the individual you're working with, that you can communicate, that you're not looking at, you know, what the stats say, that you're looking at the individual in front of you.
But that's every business.
Business.
That actually is. And it's funny because I've promoted people internally now to a director level, and they're doing a lot of hiring, and they're second guessing themselves in some cases, and judging by paper, not by their intuition. And that's something that I learned by doing it wrong repeatedly. But it's a funny thing. I was listing out in preparation for this kind of what traits are the things, the skills or the traits that I think I'm strongest in, but also that I value most. And number one, hiring people in general, is cop on.
Yeah.
So that like adaptable resourcefulness, cop on.
Of course, yeah. For me, it's essential. If someone doesn't have the ability to adapt, which is cop on, the ability to like, you know, work with the person in front of them, you can't teach that. You can coach how to do a squat better and all the rest of it. So look, I feel like the whole conversation has been about negativity and all of the rest of it, but like, was there a defining moment where you went and kind of stood proud and went, oh my God, I'm on the path here to serious success and things are going the right direction? Was there a defining moment and that you felt and then leaned into to move your career forward? Or was it just like momentum just kept carrying you along and all of a sudden you're sitting here?
I think to say success, I think that success sounds like it's the end of a road. So it's more, I think, sometimes stopping to acknowledge that is actually a goal I had set and we just did that. Let's celebrate that. Let's acknowledge that. Because it's very easy not to. It's very easy to just move on. And I think we, as a team, have set out things, and I have had different goals. I've wanted to be published in different things, wanted to win different awards, want to win this type of project, these things. And sometimes even saying them out loud, mapping them out. And yes, of course, directing yourself towards them brings you in that direction. But it is, sometimes you have to look back and say, oh, look, we actually did
what we've achieved.
We did 3 of those things on that list. We're getting closer to the rest. Like, yes, that's been in the last couple of years. There's been a lot of those box ticking. What it means though is there's just more things go on the list.
Hills on the top.
Yeah.
Once you climb the mountain, there's more mountains on the next side.
Yeah.
Look, goal setting is something I actually fall in and out of, and you know, with my clients I'm fantastic at it, but for myself I'm not so great. You mentioned just mapping out there, and I'd love to get into the head of a creative person. When you set a goal for yourself, is it just in your head, or do you have to put it on paper, or do you have to put it on something, or you know, like regardless of like a business or financial goal, but achievement of like that being in something, like do you need to see it? Do you need to feel it? Do you need to write it out? Or do you need all of the above? Do you need to express it to the world?
I see things in my head very quickly. So like when I walk into someone's home, I've designed it in my head probably in the first hour.
Brilliant.
So that's then there. So if I have a goal for myself, I'm trying to see it in my head. When I can see it in my head, then it normally is stuck, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and that is, my imagination is definitely kind of the main thing for that.
Have you ever heard of a guy called Napoleon Hill?
No.
So Napoleon Hill was effectively, do you know who Tony Robbins is and all of these motivations? Napoleon Hill was like pre all of these guys, and I listened to his book and read some of his stuff, and like the biggest thing he says is whatever our mind can conceive and believe, we can achieve. And I like, to the extent that I was like, this sound like I'm a basic person, and it was like, as soon as I read that, I was like, if I start manifesting these things properly in my head and believe that I can achieve it and put the grit in, obviously, in work, that it does tend to come to light. And it's kind of what you've described.
Because not having the picture means that sometimes you can go to a certain distance, but because you don't have that picture, you don't know where to go.
Yeah, that's so good. And I even find the reverse to be true, to be honest, where it's like, and you're talking about the language that we use about success. It's like whatever you conceive, believe, you can achieve. The reverse of that is if you conceive a negative thought in there and you start allowing that to come in, all of a sudden you'll achieve that as well. And it's kind of, for me, was like a flick of a switch moment where I was like, if I can just swap these negative thoughts around, you know, as every entrepreneur, I'm not going to let this turn into the burnout podcast, but everyone that sits down with me and talks to me speaks about a period in their life where they were burnt out or had panic attacks. And it's nearly, which is sad to say, that it's nearly something that's just not worth talking about anymore. We just presume it to be the case. I've had my own experience with it. But for me, that was one of the biggest transformative things, was changing the language, changing what the vision was, and then all of a sudden allowing that to come into my life.
Because on positive, though, the other trait is that excitability. And that comes back to what you said earlier about actually saying what you want.
Yeah.
It's also kind of nerdy sometimes to admit it out loud and be excitable. And I am that person in our team. Okay. So if I have ideas, silly ideas, creative ideas, people start to buy into that. Then the whole team is just this buzz of creative, positive energy. And that's kind of infectious, that excitability. It's silly and it's playful and it's amazing. Lighthearted.
Yeah. So the energy in the room is obviously very strongly dictated by you, whether you like it or not. And I find this is probably a very Irish thing to say, but like, I don't like to think that. I like to think the business can survive without me. That's not, but I know as soon as I'm here, everything and the energy, and I know if I come in bad form and I try to hide it, it still translates into something in the place. And it's so important to bring that energy in. And I guess, I'm sure you're aware of that with the clients you meet and the people you meet. The energy you bring to the meeting or the energy they bring tends to dictate things. Would that be fair to say?
100%. And for us, I think of us as kind of an orchestra. So we might be the conductor of sorts, but in a way we've got like all these different groups of people. In order for us to get our vision and make that real, we need to get on really well with the client. We need to keep them really happy. I need to make sure the team are all working. That's in a state of flow. That's great. Then I need to convince all of these specialist artisans and subcontractors to do the crazy things we dream up, even though they're really hard. It's not the straightforward way. There's way simpler ways to do things while keeping the main contractor and build happy. Okay, so all of these people, also, they mightn't get on. So there's all these different tensions. So much of our job is making people feel better.
Yeah, relationships.
Honestly.
Working on those. That is amazing.
And playing to that. So you're kind of juggling everything. So our job is as much that as anything. So yes, my energy, my team's energy, super, super important. And also being really aware of
what's going on.
Oh, there's a tension there. I can feel a tension there. Okay, maybe we should do this and that to try and soften that. Yeah,
and it's amazing to see in small environments what, not even a bad person by any means, but if there's an energy that isn't in a room that's a little bit off, it tends to, I kind of look at it like the graphic equalizer things. I'm like, bring this one up and this one comes down. You got to try and bring, the juggle is keeping them all up. But it's amazing how if this one comes down, how it can impact different areas so quickly. And it's like, it's a juggling act, and that's a skill that you've obviously had to learn along with loads of other skills. So being a creative person is one thing. Being a creative person that understands how to be commercially savvy, how to run a team, how to work with people, how to market yourself, and obviously you've got the right crew around you, mentors, business partners and stuff like that. But you still have to be the head book cat that guides all of this.
Yeah, and I think the thing that I definitely, and it's a constant battle, and I'm not even remotely there, is that you need to value yourself in the process. Because yes, you need to be high energy. You need to definitely be quite positive. In order to do that sincerely, you need to be pretty level with yourself. So your head and your body needs to be good, and needs to be stable and nourished. And normally that's the first thing that I let go of. And I've realized I do it when things are bad. That's fine. My food will go. I won't sleep. I'll be stressed, overworking, burnt out. But when it's good, I do it the opposite way. It's like, oh, success, doesn't matter. Great. We got what we wanted. Drop it all. That consistency piece is basically like my nemesis that I'm constantly trying to get right.
That's a common one. It's nearly like it's not a self-destruct, but there's that challenge that's there. And I always say that in my life, training is going well or business is going well. It's the juggle of the two that I really struggle with. And that's probably coming from my own, goals to be a fantastic athlete versus goals to be a successful business person, and trying to balance that, which is challenging. So look, I'm sure there are lots of people. You're ahead of so many young people wanting to get into the world of creativity, design, etc., and stuff like that. I mean, social media all you have to do is check out your Instagram profile to see that, like, your social media is your business card in a lot of sense. Like, your Instagram is so curated, it's beautiful, and that's very difficult. But and another skill that you've had to learn and put yourself out there, and another fear perhaps you've had to overcome. But what sort of advice would you give to, like, not even young people, but someone looking to follow up with a similar type of success, or similar, like, whether it's in a different industry or your own? You've given away a lot of your tools already about looking after yourself and connecting your mind, your body, and being aware of energy around you. But have you any other big tools that you use or that you would kind of give out?
I think never to lose sight of the authenticity and your kind of essence or your integrity, especially in creative spaces, because there's a lot of trends. There's also a lot of things, and people sometimes accidentally copy and imitate and echo what they see. I think if you're trying to be a designer specifically, it's really important that you have your own voice within that. You have your own principles that you can kind of stand on, that there's a substance there, because otherwise it can fall flat. There has to be depth to the ideas that you're bringing creatively, and that's really important to try and find. So if you're coming into this new, you're fresh from college, really hone into what is it that you're drawn to, what is it that you love, what is it that, like, makes you feel something,
and lean into that.
Exactly, because otherwise it won't have enough depth.
Yeah. Versus following, like, something that's commercially or on social media that's a trend. You think it's important to learn who you are as a creative and follow that.
Yeah, and, like, realistically, social media for us is so important. Like you said, our spaces, a lot of them are private. People don't get to experience them. The closest thing they can get to is seeing them in an image, or better still, video. But so for me to show those spaces is super important. But that being said, it's also smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people come to me and they think, I can do that. That looks easy. Oh, look, it's very glamorous. And photo shoots day in. Oh, they're laughing and smiling all the time. Look, she's wearing a nice new outfit. That is not.
That's the highlight.
That is not the real life. The real life is, it's 14 years in. I work my ass off, and, like, I'm still as in it. Like, there is no separate work, life, friends, family. That is just, it's a way of living. And if you think otherwise, good luck. I don't know what that business is. So
is it fair to say that's a myth that you'd like to debunk about success?
100%.
Yeah. I mean, it is the case that it takes over, it becomes your identity when you are the business. And, I didn't call this John Belton personal training because I wanted to try and avoid that. I was like, I don't want it to be about me and, all of the rest of it. But very quickly I've realized that, like, whether I like it or not, I need to be in the trenches. I need to be here. Or, you can't expect someone else to kind of carry your business for you. So that's a big part of it.
It took 10 years for me to rebrand it as Roisin Lafferty, even though I've been the sole person running it for the last 10 years.
Really?
For that reason, because I didn't want it to be just my name. I wanted it to be a collective, which is what KLD had become.
Okay.
But the reality is, it's my name that people associate with it.
Yeah. Do you feel like you struggle a little bit with not even that self-confidence? Is that, that putting yourself out there piece to the business, or have you got over that? Have you overcome that?
I am such a people pleaser in general. So yes, I want everybody to like me. When they don't like me, it is very stressful. So it's now just better. Again, I go back into my little house.
Yeah.
I don't pay too much attention.
Yeah, no, that's important. Do you find it hard to stay inspired and to kind of stay, I don't mean current, because I know that's kind of exactly what you said not to do, but to stay inspired and to continue fueling your creative fires? Have you tools you use to do that, or do you find that difficult, or is that just something that's just innate and it just keeps happening, that you just keep kicking out these beautiful things?
It's endless. It's just like feeds and feeds, and then you travel, you go see new things, you're taking random photos of the most weird things that might just spur another idea. No, it's more, how do you harness them all? How do you do them all? How can you do them quicker? That kind of thing.
Does that come in? Is there a commercial piece with them where does that upset you a little bit, where you're like, I want to do all these projects, but I know I need to do them quicker, and I know I need to, get more of them, and I know I need to get someone else to do some of this stuff. Do you find that hard to deal with, or is that something that's not actually an issue for you at all?
I think something has clicked in the last 6 months to a year, where now I kind of see all of those commercial things as part of the creative projects to tackle. So now it's kind of exciting, because it's kind of like, okay, no, I can see how these could work. Need to figure out a lot of things. Don't have the answers to them, but they're kind of projects in themselves, as opposed to being so intimidating and far away. That's certainly more exciting now.
And as a creative person, I mean, there's so many avenues you can go down, from how, like, I've seen such amazing projects. I've seen houses, I've seen loads of different things, and when I speak with my friend Al, who I just keep hearing the same language coming across here, he's designing different things with whiskey bottles and a whole load of different bits and pieces to it. Do you try to protect what you do? Do you want to keep it in one little funnel, or are you kind of open to your design processes growing in different directions?
I love the growing different directions. And that's something that with interior design, and here in general, I feel like maybe everyone sees it all quite linear. Whereas in Italy, a lot of the designers I love and look up to already do that kind of cross-pollination hugely. So a lot of them would design, they might be architects or interior designers, but they design rug collections, furniture, lighting with all these different brands. And that's really exciting. So that's actually what I really want to focus on now, because I think that creative thinking and design does not need to be restricted to one avenue. I think that the process is the same, whether it's a product, a light, obviously the skills and the facts you need to know with that, but the actual creative process is the same.
Yeah, I agree with that. And there's a few big companies I work with here, massive accountancy firms and things like that. I better not say their names actually, but some of them have created what they call creative spaces, where they're taking their staff who are solicitors, accountants, or people in those sort of corporate professions, and they want them to start going into this creative space. So they start opening their mind up and thinking differently and creating different things within the accountancy and legal world, which I mean, I love that they're open to doing that, but I also find it a bit like, it's like someone handing, me and you a maths book and saying, no, I want you to start thinking like an accountant. It's kind of funny.
It's a little forced.
It's a little bit forced. I think, there's that biodiverse crossover piece that's amazing, but I think I just found that funny that's where they're trying to go with it. But what's next for you? Because it feels like the world is your oyster. I feel like you've got your creative soul is dialed in. Your business has got the crew around them. You've got everything in place. So what's next? It feels like the world is your oyster.
It's really exciting. So we've rebranded only this year. So that was a big thing. We have taken on a new building, so we're on Fitzwilliam Square, and part of that is we're in the middle of a big renovation. With that, we've changed the structure of the business quite a bit in order to stop me being that kind of bottleneck.
Yeah.
Because that was the problem. I've had all these ideas, but there's only so much space and time to do all of those things. So my team, we've kind of grown 4 of the team to director level, and they are very much now allowing me the freedom to grow some of the ideas that we have. When you're doing things for yourself, it's so easy to put them off.
Yeah, I know it so well. Do you have people then that or do you believe in that kind of, you need a mentor and you need to be a mentor for people as well? Are there people who come to you for advice? Are you in that position in your career, or is that something that you just never even think about?
We have a lot of people coming into the company maybe who are graduates or juniors and still want to travel a lot. So they might go to the States for a while. They might, it's kind of short periods. So I would look at that as that more so. For me, yes, there are people I go to. More so, I guess, like I said, to maintain that level, you know, so that you don't float off your head in the clouds, so that you can stay grounded.
Stay grounded, so important. Well, listen, how can people find out more about you? Obviously, they can look at you on Instagram. Is that the best place? So where do you keep out all your current kind of up-to-date, what's happening, newsletters, etc.? Is there anything people should know?
Instagram, Roisin Lafferty Official is the best place. So that kind of shows the behind the scenes. It shows the process. It's a bit more engaging. The website's beautiful, but it's stagnant in comparison.
Sure.
So that's more where people can communicate directly.
Brilliant. And we look forward to seeing loads more articles, no doubt, and all sorts of different magazines. I would be lying if I said I know every single magazine that you're in. I read it and I went, oh my God, this lady's extremely successful. But Roisin Lafferty, I can't thank you enough.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much. And we might even have a round 2 in a year's time. Who knows?
Thank you.